everybody, my name is Manuela. I am EDGE's Global Coordinator for the GBA program, and I'm also working with EDGE in East Africa. And yeah, welcome to the webinar. In the next 30 minutes, I'll try to share a couple of insights with you that I've gained in my work in the last 1.5 years, researching about impact business in East Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa, and I hope you'll enjoy. And at the end, you'll be able to ask some questions, and we'll be able to interact a bit more. So, as you can see on the agenda, we have like 5 things planned out for today. First, we want to talk a bit about what challenges do low-income people experience in Africa. We want to look at one business that is a bit different, that creates an impact for these type of people. We want to look at the supporting network. How do impact business entrepreneurs, how are they supported in Africa? We want to look at, if you're a young person and you want to get involved in this field, what can you do? And we'll end with talking a bit about opportunities with EDGE for your next steps. So when I prepared for this webinar, I thought talking about Africa in 30 minutes is an extreme challenge. Many of you are from Africa, and you know that the continent is extremely diverse. We have 54 countries. We have 47 of them are called the Sub-Saharan countries, and I mean, just the sheer diversity between the countries, even within the countries, are just so intense. You can see a rural area where people, live off their own farm. And on the other hand, you have huge cities. If we take Lagos in Nigeria, with millions of people, all crowded in a place. And so the diversity in one continent is just very big. We have very diverse climate, cultures, languages. So, I mean, me presenting anything in 30 minutes here will be very hard, but I'll try to share a few insights that make sense for you. Even when I looked at this slide and I wanted to pick a map of Africa, I was already challenged because, what is the picture that I want to show as the first picture about Africa? When you choose a map, are you choosing one that shows the big deserts? Do you want to show one that shows the climate, that shows the nation border? So what picture are you actually putting there? Because every picture comes with controversy. And I think the moment you say something about Africa, it's already not true anymore. So the picture that I chose is the picture that for me represents Africa most. It's the Africa I know, that I've lived in and that I've traveled in. It's one that's very diverse, bubbly, colorful, changing all the time. So, I mean, that's really represented in the picture. But what those of you who know Africa already see that even this picture is already old. Southern Sudan is missing. So as you see, Africa is a place in movement. There's a lot of changes, diversity, and it's exciting. It's an exciting place for impact business to happen. So a couple of cool facts I found when I did my research, because I'm sure you want to see some numbers, is, for example, that the amount of women represented in the parliaments of Africa is on the same as the global average. So for me, that was really a great sign to see that, some people sometimes think, oh, Africa is kind of behind in certain aspects, but I do think in certain aspects it's on the same or even ahead level. Another cool fact that I want to show is that over 1/3 of the people of the population, which is over 1 billion, have access to a cell phone. So I mean, there are these like surprising facts that show that the picture you might have of Africa in the 50s, 60s, 70s is really changing, and the youth is really doing a lot, and the opportunities are immense. So if you look at this slide, you see this exact diversity that I'm talking about. You have the traditional women on the market selling things. You have desert. You have these women actually in the desert wearing like rubber shoes, So I mean, you just see like the change in every of these pictures. You also see one of the urban areas in Nigeria where the traffic is just immense. Like you can kind of get an idea. So I'm not going to give you a lot of facts like the guy here who's trying to show how Africa can be pressed into numbers, because I don't believe it's true. I'm just going to spend a few minutes on looking at a few numbers that I want you to also challenge. I just don't want you to write down numbers, but actually challenge the facts. So if I look at the United Nations Millennium Development Goal report that was published last year, it says that 47% of people in sub-Saharan Africa live on less than $1.25 per day. And it also says that 76% of people who are employed are actually working on their own account, so they are like self-employed at some way, or they work in a family business and they are unpaid. So, I mean, these numbers are just immense, showing you what could be called poverty, but I would prefer to call it unpredictable lifestyles, because if you see these 47% who live on $1.25 a day, it's not like every day they have $1.25. They might have $5 today and then nothing for the next 3 days. The other thing is the unpredictability of the work that many people are doing. You might have a job today, but you might not have a job tomorrow. And this makes it very hard to plan for healthcare, for education for your children. It makes it hard to plan, can I move into a better house? Because you don't even know how you might pay it next month. You're extremely dependent on maybe family members or your day-to-day customers who will give you a job tomorrow. So it's a very unpredictable lifestyle, and this is, I think, what the majority of people on the continent live on. And this poses a lot of social challenges that can be addressed. This slide kind of shows the huge potential of the future. We know that of the 1 billion people who live on the African continent, the vast majority are people under 20. And you see now education, primary, secondary education, even early child education would make such a huge difference for these people. But if we look at these numbers, we see that still a lot of young girls marry early, have family early. A lot of young people are illiterate. So we see that there's also a lot of, if we want the change to happen over the next years, there's a lot that we need to invest in the early generations. So education is an exciting field to be in, I believe, in Africa. Right, so now that we know a few numbers and we see the huge potential that impact business can have, I want to look at life of people in the rural areas. And I have 2 videos now that I want us to watch together. The first one is about a female farmer, and she's going to show you a bit around her farm, so you can see how her life is like and how she deals with her cows. And then the second video is a gentleman that works in a company in Nairobi, and he then explains how his company and this woman are connected. So yeah, enjoy the videos and be very attentive, because afterwards we'll have a few questions about them.
How much milk is your Juhudi cow producing?
6 liters, yeah. Morning, on the morning. Yeah, afternoon, 5.
I work for a microfinance institution called Juhudi Kilimo, which in Kiswahili, means productive farmer. We focus on providing microfinance services exclusively in agriculture. And we focus on deep rural smallholder farmers. So the difference between us and other microfinance institutions is twofold. One, we go into deep rural areas, so the Faulus and the Kenya Women's and the KCBs and all the other financial institutions that are out there tend to focus around the main market town. So they'll go, 15, 20 kilometers from, let's say, Kisii or Nyamira, whereas we tend to go much deeper, 100 kilometers. And then the second big difference in our model between us and the others is that while other microfinance institutions finance primarily working capital and consumption, we finance agricultural assets that generate income. So the classic example of this is our flagship asset, the dairy cow. So if a farmer buys a dairy cow, if we finance it for them, with all everything that they need to pay for inputs, feed, agrovet services, all those things, minus the returns that they get, they end up with a 50% net return on that investment. So it generates 14 liters of milk a day. They keep 4 for consumption. They're left with 10 that they can sell on the market. They pay our interest, which is about 18% flat, and they're still left with a 30% return. So what we found at Juhudi was that if you finance productive income-generating agricultural assets, you're building up the farmer's income-generating balance sheet. So the farmer takes one loan from us, gets one dairy cow, which generates roughly around $500 plus a year. And then they graduate onto their second loan, so they get another cow, and soon enough they have 4 cows and a zero grazing unit, and then with all the dung that they're able to generate from the cow, they're able to build a biogas unit. So now they have gas that they can use to power their stoves instead of paying for firewood or instead of paying for charcoal. So slowly we build up the farmer's asset base and help them graduate out of poverty.
Did you like the videos? Good! So now I would like to ask you 3 questions. What do you think is the social problem that Juhudi Kilimo is trying to address? What is the solution that Juhudi Kilimo came up with? And what do you think is the business model of Juhudi Kilimo as a company? Just take a pen and paper and just take like a minute or so to just, from the videos that you've seen, try to answer these 3 questions. The social problem that Juhudi Kilimo wants to address is that many people live in the rural areas. They are small-scale farmers, and they don't have any assets that might allow them to increase their wealth and to actually produce a higher income, to get on the next income level. And to get a loan, these farmers would have to travel really far, because the traditional microfinance or banks that might give them loans to purchase a new cow or other type of livestock, they might be really far because they traditionally don't go that deep in the rural areas. So this is what Juhudi Kilimo does. They go deeper in the rural areas and offer very specific support for what the people in those areas need. So the solution is that the people there take up loans, and with the loans of, it could be $200, it could be more, they buy very specific assets. For example, a new cow that produces much more milk, or a bike that they can use to transport their goods further to the next market town to actually be included in the supply chain, in the agricultural value chain. So by them buying the assets, they are able to produce a higher income, and they can pay back the loan to Juhudi Kilimo. Another really good trick is that just giving somebody the money without training them on how to repay the loan or how to manage the loan in the groups might not be as successful. So Juhudi Kilimo does that. They train the groups for 2 months before giving out the loan, and they also involve important other partners, like for example the government, in in actually going there. You might have somebody who works for the government in agriculture, and they go and actually tell people how to feed their animals better. You know, what are the tips and tricks to make higher incomes from now the new assets that the farmer has. The business model, this is the interesting question, right? This looks like a great social impact, and Juhudi Kilimo has given just under 10,000 loans to farmers in Kenya so far. So the question is, how does Juhudi Kilimo also sustain their own model? How do they pay their over 70 people who work for them? So the answer to this is that there is an interest loan. You've seen this in the video. There's an interest rate on the loans that the farmers give. And what I really like about the model is that they found a trick, a very interesting way of mitigating the risk. You know, you give somebody money and they buy a cow, for example, and then if something happens to the cow, what is going to happen, right? So Juhudi actually even has an insurance partnership, that they put a group insurance on all the assets that the small-scale farmers buy. The farmers might not be able to access such an insurance just by themselves, but in the group they are able to. So for Juhudi, the risk therefore is smaller, and I think it's really interesting, because by doing this they can in a sustainable way reach more and more farmers over the time as the loans are coming back. So I think this is really interesting, and I do think you should watch the full videos on YouTube. There are many. Just go on YouTube, look for the company name, and also, of course, go on the website juhudikilimo.com. So Juhudi Kilimo is one example of what in Edge we call impact business. So now I'm giving you the actual definition, right? It is a financially sustainable venture providing basic products or services to low-income populations. So to break this definition down a bit, first we say financially sustainable. We want this business to actually generate revenue from selling the products or services, not by fundraising or anything that traditional NGOs might do. We want the revenue to come from the sales. If we talk about basic products and services, as Edge, we are really interested in these topics: education, energy, access, technology solutions, financial services, where Juhudi Kilimo would fall. So like insurance, loans, savings, things that people can't necessarily access. We talk about healthcare, preventive healthcare, but also treatment. And the last topic is also infrastructure and housing. Healthy, affordable housing is a big challenge for many people who have low income. And if you talk about offering such products and services to low-income populations, you need to always look at two things. Is it accessible for these people? Accessible being where they are. Can they get it, or do they have to walk for 200 kilometers to access it? Also, accessibility is a question of how complicated is your product. Do you speak in the language that the people understand? I mean, this is all of extending access to people who were previously not included in the market. And the last point is affordability. That's not hard to guess. That's about the price. Can they actually pay for your product? Does it make sense for their income levels? So on this slide, I'm showing you a few really, to me, very exciting business ideas. As we're speaking right now, there are hundreds of entrepreneurs all over Africa experimenting and, with the ideas that they have and starting to implement them and actually, draw people to them, form a management team, write a business plan, start, looking for the startup funding and actually, starting to test the viability of their ideas. So this is a really exciting thing that's happening right now. So I'll just point out 4 like examples, but there are many more, and if you go to the right websites you can find all these ideas and people who are really working on it. So there's one business here that is trying to revolutionize how education could be done in the future. Why do children have to buy costly textbooks? Why not just pay per use and have everything digital? You know, why do if my livelihood depends on fishing, how can my access to selling this fish or become improved? How can I have more information about aquaculture? There's ideas on healthcare. How can we improve healthcare in urban slums? I mean, there's so many interesting things going on. Of course, the last one is kind of connected between financial service and education. So how can we ensure that school fees actually arrive in the right place and we prevent fraud? I mean, so many exciting ideas to make a difference in lives of low-income populations. So how, if there are so many people with great ideas out there, how do they make it from this idea to an actual business that's running and reaching thousands or 10,000s of lives? So on this map, on the picture, I'm kind of showing you a few supporting organizations, the supporting network of impact business across Africa. There are many more that I was not able to put on this picture, but I would suggest you to look up some of them later and really find out how you know, what do they offer to entrepreneurs. So we're gonna pick 3. One is in Uganda. It's called Mara Foundation. So they really help. They have different offers, but one of the offers is the Entrepreneur Launchpad. It's a mentorship program. So they take upcoming entrepreneurs with great ideas and they give them a mentor who is a CEO, CFO, COO in a big, you know, in a corporate or in a huge organization. So really this mentorship experience helps young entrepreneurs implement their idea. Another organization that I've picked here is from, they're actually in Cape Town in South Africa. They're called Impact Amplifier. So once you have your business idea ready, you've tested it, you know that this will work in the communities, you have already had a pilot, then often the question becomes, how do you access financing? And now Impact Amplifier, this is one of the things they do. They support impact investors to source and invest in early stage social businesses, which is very rare that somebody really looks at early stage financing. And another thing is they also help entrepreneurs to actually become what we call investment ready, to be able to speak the language that investors understand, and that, you know, to examine their model in a way that it becomes interesting for investors. The third organization I want to point out is a very famous global organization called Avance Fund. They have an office in Kenya, but they have investments all over Africa, over 15 so far. And they are an impact investor, but apart from investing, so giving money between, as I wrote here, between 150,000 and 2 million, it could be debt funding or equity funding, very exciting, you know, things to read up on for you to know more about. Apart from the financial aspect, they also take care a lot of developing actual entrepreneurs and developing leaders. So they have a very exciting program in East Africa, which is a fellowship program that takes entrepreneurs and for 1 year training, mentorship, kind of takes them through a journey of social entrepreneurship to help them boost their personal capacity as a business leader. So, as I said, there are many more organizations. There are so many entrepreneurs. There are dozens of businesses currently working on, you know, implementing such amazing solutions for, as we said, healthcare, education, housing, financial services, all these ideas. So I want to point out a few trends. One of the trends is that there is a lot happening in terms of rural livelihoods. So many people live in the rural areas and depend on their income for this. But often they don't have access to the global markets. the materials that they use isn't as good as it could be. So how can so there are many companies trying to work on providing these people capital to grow, including them in a stronger value chain, giving them access to markets to sell and also markets to purchase seeds and feeds for their businesses, for their small-scale farming businesses. Another interesting point is, of course, healthcare. We see exciting business models around nutrition, around malaria treatment, around sanitation, around small clinics, low-cost clinics. I mean, the more you read, the more excited you get about the opportunities that exist for healthcare. And one thing that is just so exciting for people who have not interacted with Africa before is that, I mean, IT hasn't stopped, from entering the market, and there are a lot of programmers on mobile applications, technology innovation. There's a lot happening, and it's really exciting to go into one of these hubs and actually, see the people who are programming and the businesses, the kind of ideas they come up with that are often hard to implement in very regulated markets, and you just see so amazing innovative solutions happening. Mobile phone financial solutions, lending, saving on your mobile phone, sending money across the country, across the continent. The idea that we had of books, for children per use on a tablet. Of course, if we talk about tech, we also talk about energy solutions. So people who are not on the energy grid, how can they still have a life with light and heat and cooking energy? I mean, there's a lot. There are a lot of businesses working on this. If we talk about a changing environment and more businesses coming in, so I also want to point out a bit what is actually currently changing for impact entrepreneurs in the field, because you might think, how is it like to be one of them? So a few things to point out is that the infrastructure is improving. There's much more awareness right now that it's possible to run a business, a financially sustainable business that attracts investment, which actually makes a difference for low-income populations. And with improved infrastructure comes also access to funding, access to mentorship, access to incubation. If you go to the right places, people will actually understand, oh, you're running a business that makes a social difference. So now more and more of this movement is coming up. We also see in the big cities, we see hubs and labs, actual physical spaces where people meet and sit together and encourage each other and support each other. So physical spaces where you meet this type of innovative people. Of course, we also see increased competition between businesses. A lot of businesses are trying to address similar things. So I think it's good, that competition comes in, and I think we should listen to one of the entrepreneurs who's actually doing this right now, not just listen to me as an outsider describing it. So we asked a Ugandan entrepreneur called Abu, who is currently working on an off-grid energy solution. He has been doing this for a few years now, and we asked him for an interview. So in the following, you can just lean back and watch the interview happen between members from ISEC in Uganda who interviewed the entrepreneur. So have fun with that.
Okay, Abu Musuuza is my name. Uganda, born, bred, raised, educated. I am also a former member of ISEC. It is in ISEC that I got a lot of exposure to a lot of leadership skills, but also to a network of people that inspired me quite a bit. I am a graduate of social work and social administration, but I have never practiced social work and social administration per se. That's because while I was working with ISEC, I got exposed to the whole space of social entrepreneurship, and I picked up great interest. And so I actually ended up working with Ashoka, which is one of the early founders of the space of social entrepreneurship, where I worked for 6 years, 3 of them in Uganda and 3 of them in Nairobi as the director for East Africa. And after which I left to found Village Energy. co-founder and director at Village Energy. We founded Village Energy in August of 2009. That's after I left Ashoka. And currently my role is director, right? And I'm more in the operations side of the business, human resource, finance, marketing, sales. That's my portfolio. I think what excites me is the whole challenge of basically developing solutions that address social problems. So the one thing you have to understand about Village Energy is that we are changing our thinking in the company. And what we are changing is the way we understand solar. So we are predominantly a solar company, right? So what we're doing is we're moving away from looking at solar as simply an end product that you sell to someone, right? That giving someone a solar system that can give them 2 lights and a phone charger is the end game, right? What we're looking more now is the context within which this person lives. And we're trying to look at development issues within this context. What are the development challenges? What are the critical social services that need to be delivered in these communities that are either non-existent at all or that are insufficiently delivered. And then the question we ask ourselves is, how can we use our expertise in energy, in renewable energy, to finally find a solution of how that can be delivered? So what excites me is the challenge of sitting down and saying, okay, guys, there's an issue in agriculture, right, and irrigation. So how can we take on this challenge? How can we develop a product that will finally get thousands of farmers onto the movement of using irrigation, right? So then the whole process of designing, a product, incorporating, renewable energy, using solar to basically, advance the whole space of irrigation. So that daily mind frame of, thinking about development issues, connecting that to what we do as our core business, and trying to develop, something that will finally, advance a lot of. So we do that for health, education, agriculture, access to information, all these kinds of things. So that's what excites me the most. I think it's not something unique to Village Energy. I think it's something that a lot of social businesses face. Because many social businesses are mostly motivated by solving a specific social problem, right? But there's another side of making sure that you have a business that works, right? Because you can't have one or the other. You can't simply have a business that works but not address a social problem, because then your relevance will run out. Yet you also cannot be so passionate about social impact that you forget about the business, because if you don't have a business that works, you will have nothing that is driving the social impact. So the challenge is balancing the two, right? And the biggest challenge that I faced, right, that we're now trying to address, is the fact that we did not have business expertise, right? You start a social business, you're motivated to address the energy crisis in Africa, but you don't have the good business skill, right? You don't understand balance sheets, profit and loss statements, and if you don't understand those, you can't run a good business, right? So that was a challenge. The other challenge is distribution, right? Distribution is a big thing. Understanding the market, first of all, that you're working most social businesses work at the bottom of the pyramid, right? So you need to find a way of delivering a product in a model that works for this kind of, right? So you're looking at a market that doesn't have upfront money, right? That here is $200, to buy this product, right? But they have it in tickets. They can pay it for you in little installments. So you need to find a pricing model. You need to find a distribution model. You need to find a product model, right? All of those three that work in a way that will allow a lot more communities to access this product. The other thing is in terms of we basically we are part of the Acumen Fund. I am an Acumen Fund fellow, and we've basically learned a little bit about about running a good business, you know, cash flow statements, you know, and all the tools you need to basically make good business decisions. We've had issues with human resource as well, challenge of human resource. We as a small startup company don't have enough money to pay for, you know, like super qualified people, right? So what we've done is we run most of our programs through an internship program, right? I think where we basically bring on people as interns. We don't have to, you know, pay a very high salary, but then we get still quality human resource, right? So for every program, we basically bring in someone, you know, they sit and develop the program, you know, and then they run it. And as we grow, then we'll basically start looking at more permanent. So we've addressed the human resource issue wholly through our partnership with ISEC. I think everyone should start thinking about social business, you know, as their next career move. If you look at for-profit businesses, right, the purely profit businesses, they are competing in the smallest part of the market. Right? Some analysts say that is only what you see is only 25% of the market. 75% of the market is actually, you know, the bottom of the pyramid, where social businesses operate. Right? And I think this is the reason why, because there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of market to cover, there's a lot of space to cover, there are a lot of issues to cover in you know, in society. So first and foremost, very seriously think about, you know, doing a career in social business. Two, don't come in with one or the other, right? Don't come in thinking, okay, I'm going for social impact, right? Or okay, I'm coming to do business. It has got to be both, right? It cannot be one or the other, right? If you take one and not the other, everything will crumble, right? So think about it as a whole thing, right? Think about the bottom of the pyramid as customers, not as helpless people. Generally, for people who are coming into the social business, starting a business is not easy, right? Yet it's not as hard as they say, right? My advice, therefore, would be for young people is the greatest resource that you have is time, right? You're young, you still don't have, you know, like all these family commitments where you have to, you know, take care of kids, you know, take care of a household. So you have a greater opportunity to take more risks, right? Take risks, fail, you know, the impact is not, you know, as much, right? You don't, you know, lose, you know, too much, right? So go out there, explore, you know, discover, you know, try. Things will explode in your face, build them back. You know, that's basically how it goes back.
My name is Grace Washera. I am the Kenya National Coordinator for EDGE. I hope you enjoyed Abu's story and you enjoyed getting to know Abu more. So maybe for some bit of homework or for further reading for you guys, there's some few ways that you could get engaged with EDGE in Africa. You could learn more by researching on some suggested reading, some books, some websites, some blogs. I'm going to tell you, you're going to see them further like as we go on. You could also interact with entrepreneurs. You could go like discover what the other entrepreneurs in your area, interact with them, find out more on what they do, how they run their businesses, what are the challenges they experience in their area. You could also find some local organizations and events that you could participate in, find out what they do more, how they interact with the entrepreneurs in the field and such. Also, like working with some of your friends, you could discuss and share on some things. For instance, you could run a workshop at your university. You could organize in a way that you could get entrepreneurs and speakers to come speak in your university, to explain to you more on what happens in the field of impact business, to also get to understand how the ecosystem in the field of impact business works or runs better. You could also like discuss business models with your peers, like what you've researched, what you found out. You could discuss how you think it runs as an impact business, how you think it impacts the society, how you think it improves the lives of the people around your area. You could also design business plan competitions, like you will come up with a business plan of your own, you with your friends, and you could go and talk to entrepreneurs and have them judge your plan and give you feedback on how you could improve on these ideas. Other ways that you could get involved is you could challenge yourself by doing an internship in a business around you, an impact business. You could learn a lot more from working in the field and knowing exactly what the challenges people face when they're working in this field of impact business. You could also participate in the EDGE GBA program. You could also participate in the EDGE photo contest. These are very good ways that you could get involved with EDGE activities and also in the field of impact business. Here are some of the recommended readings. You could look at these blogs, you could look at some of these books. The Banker to the Poor, Mr. Yunu's book is a really good book. You should make a point of reading it, and some of these sites are really good. You could learn a lot from them. The details from the numbers from this webinar have been gotten from the United Nations MDG report for 2012, and these TED Talks are really good talks that you should really consider looking at.
Please stay in touch with EDGE. If you like this, subscribe to our channels. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Stay in touch with us. Contact us if you have any questions, suggestions. Yeah, so thanks for being with us today, and we're looking forward to more interaction.